This video is a top-to-bottom setup guide for the PSMoveService and the PSMoveFreepieBridge to get your own emulated HTC Vive. Keep in mind, this isn't for full room scale, it's for standing room only. The cost of all the hardware ranges anywhere from $100 to $200, depending on the VR headset you choose and what kind of deals you can find on used equipment. To get the setup done, it should take you only a couple hours, and when it's done right, you should get some really nice results. Before we get into the installation, I'm going to start with a hardware and software list of everything you need to get going. All software that you need is linked in the description below, along with the chapter list in case you only need a few parts of this video as reference. The software you're going to need for this is Riftcat, PSMoveService, FreePie, PSMoveFreepieBridge, Steam with Steam VR installed, and an optional piece of software, Autohotkey. That's to help speed things up during calibration and starting everything up later on for use. As far as the hardware that's required, you're going to need 3 PSMove motion controllers, 3 to 4 PS3 Move eye cameras, a VR headset, mobile phone of course, USB extension cables, active and passive depending on how far you need to run them, Bluetooth adapter, mini USB cable, some Velcro, camera mounting brackets, a small table or raised surface to do some calibration on, and a cable management system, and that's just an optional thing, which you'll see in my videos. I've started it, but not quite finished. Here are a few pictures on how I got the camera set up around my room. Now the brackets I'm using are just some cheap L brackets that I bought at Home Depot for $2. Just use drywall screws into the drywall. Those cameras don't weigh that much and it's not going to pull anything down. The cameras themselves, they really need to be at least 6 feet high, if not a little bit higher. That's just to make sure they stay above your head. My basement's only about 6 feet or just above, so I barely fit in there, so I wish I can go a bit higher. But they do need to be in about a square or a triangle type form, and that way you get a full 360 degrees tracking right around you. Keep in mind though, if any of the cable runs are longer than 16 feet, you're going to need an active cable to make sure that the connection is strong. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get the cameras installed on the computer properly. Since you've already downloaded all the files from the description, all you need to do is open up one program you got called Zadig. Once you run that, you're going to get another window that comes up, and you want to go to Options, and then just list all devices, and then that's going to give you all the USB devices you have. So you want to select all of your USB cameras, the B4, 04, and that sort of thing, 09, and then you want to make sure you select on lib USB Win32, this one right here. Once you have that selected, you're going to want to click on, mine says replace driver because I've already installed it, but yours is going to say install driver. Once it's done on each camera, or you can double check in Device Manager to make sure that they did properly install. They should be listed as lib USB devices here, as you can see. I've got 4 cameras, so just make sure you see one for each camera. Okay, so now we're all set to get the software installed. So first thing you might want to do is get this calibration mat printed out. You don't need to print it in color, black and white's just fine, but just make sure it's on a full page just like that. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure you have all the software downloaded. We're going to be installing all of that, but first install the Riftcat installer, and then you want to install the FreePie installer, and just keep banging through next, and defaults is fine for both those pieces. Next thing is open up the PSMoveService, and you're going to want to copy all the contents from the 64-bit folder for a 64-bit machine, and then copy into a familiar spot on your desktop perhaps, just like I have, and just keep it all tight in one folder. And then you're going to do the exact same thing with the FreepieBridge. And secondly as well, after you install the FreePie software, you might as well just grab the shortcut and dump it in this folder as well, because you're going to be running it at the same time as the FreepieBridge software. You can close that zip file and then navigate to the PSMoveService folder. You want to double click the first Steam VR driver. That's going to open up another window where you're going to have to navigate to your Steam install directory, and in mine it's on C drive and program files x86, and just go to the root directory of Steam and then click on OK. Once you've done that, you're going to need to run the next two drivers that are below it as well. Just follow the on-screen prompts too. Once that's complete, the last thing you're going to have to do is going to have to open up a browser and go over to your Steam install directory again. And once you're in there, scroll to the bottom, you should see you should go to the config folder, and then scroll to the bottom and see the VR settings file. Open that up, and if you don't have this already, you're going to need to put this in there yourself, but activate multiple drivers true, just like you see in the video here. And it's got to be in that Steam VR section. Next thing you need to do is test the position and the functionality of all your cameras. So you can close down the folder, the file that you have for the Steam VR. You can get rid of the other windows on your desktop as well. You're done with them now. But you want to go into your VR folder that you've put on your desktop, and then open up the PSMoveService folder. In there, you should see Test Cameras. Double-click that, and all your cameras should pop up there. And you should be getting about 60 frames per second on each one of them. It should just be really smooth video. Spread them all out so you can see them all at the same time. And then what you want to do is you want to go out to the kind of an area in the middle and then hold up a controller just to make sure that all cameras can see it pretty clearly no matter which way you turn. Also, another thing too is it's a good time to pick your middle spot. As I've got marked there, it's those two storage bins. It's all I had in the dingy old basement. But that was good enough just to get the calibration mat set up on. And just make sure it's centralized in the 4 cameras and none of them are off center or anything like that. Now that the cameras are ready to go, it's time to move to the motion controller setup and calibration. You're going to want to make sure you have a controller plugged into your computer and then run the PSMoveService in the PSMoveService folder. This service always has to be running, so just keep that in the back of your mind at all times. Then you want to open up the config tool. In here you want to click on controller settings, and then you're probably going to see a pair USB controller. Just click on that, and then you're going to want to keep hitting the PS button in the middle of the controller and make the LED blink. If it stops blinking, just blink it again, and just keep pressing it over and over again until this finishes. You can see in my video the script's just running in the background. So just let it keep going until it says connected. Yeah, it can take a little bit of time sometimes, but just make sure you do this for all 3 controllers. There. So once you've confirmed that all 3 controllers are connected, you'll see them here, controller 0, 1, and 2. You're going to need to get each one of them calibrated. So pick one of them and then click on Calibrate Magnetometer, the first one, and then you're going to whirl the controller around in your hand as much as you can until this full blue circle fills up with little white dots and that yellow bar fills up. And then before clicking OK, this part is very important. You're going to need to make sure that you have it set down on your calibration mat in the number 3 position just to make it easy, but make sure it's completely square to your front facing point. This is where the controller is, this is where it kind of gets a little finicky and you might have to do it a few times, but make sure it's facing perfectly forward, and that way you get the right movement on the controller. Then click on OK, and it's going to run a few more progress bars and then hit OK again. Then move to the second calibration for the gyroscope. Hit OK, and again, just keeping the controller exactly where it was, don't move it, and let these progress bars fill up and do its thing. Keeping in mind though that you do have to do this for each controller, all of these steps. I'm just going to show you one here for now. and hit OK, and then another OK, and then back in the menu you want to do the third one, and then click on Start Sampling, and then let this bar fill up as well. Once these are all complete, you want to just test some of the orientation of the controller. So if you tilt it straight forward, just click on the test, just lean it forward a little bit, and you should see it follow that green line. Mine's off by just a hair, but it's not bad really. So I'll take it and I'll keep that going. If anything looks wrong, you can always just recalibrate it and try it again, and just make sure you line it up perfectly straight. And there you go. Just make sure you do all the calibrations for each controller. So moving on to the color tracking calibration. This part's a little bit long and tedious, takes a bit of time, but again, like everything else, the more effort you put into it and the more time you spend on it, the better your results will be. So you're going to need to open up your tracker settings from the main menu, and you're going to have to calibrate each tracker individually. And on each tracker, you're going to have to calibrate each controller. This newest software now gives you a little bit more of a granular calibration to it, but I think at the end it gives you a little bit better results. So I'm going to run through one. I'll show you how it works. What you need to do is you need to switch the video filter mode over to masked. Once in masked, you need to make sure that your colors are all visible on the controller. So just stand it up in that spot number 3 like you had before for the controller calibration, and just make sure you can see it. If you can't see it, I'm going to demo it here. What you need to do is, see that it's not there anymore, you need to go to RGB mode, and this just shows everything like a normal camera. Right click on the dot on your controller, and that's going to set the parameters for it. Then you switch over to mask, and you should see it now. You can always just right click it whenever to reset those parameters, but just do that for each color. So do one, then switch the color, and then you're going to have to go back and forth between RGB and masked a few times. Once those are all done, move over to your second tracker and make sure you do it again on the second tracker. And make sure all the colors, and they're not fuzzy or anything like that. Once you do all 3 or 4 of your trackers, you're going to have to move to do the same thing again with the second controller and the third controller. FreePie and PSMoveFreepieBridge is what tracks your head movement. What you're going to need to do is get a piece of Velcro stuck to the side of your VR headset, and then another piece on the exact side of the controller. That way when it sticks to your headset, it's still going to face the front of your calibration mat here. So you just put it on the mat to make sure you can get everything facing perfectly forward to ensure your head movement is going to be straight as well. This is probably a good time to mention as well, you might want to tape down that calibration mat to make sure it doesn't move, and that point of reference always stays the exact same. Now we can move over to your FreePie folder. In there you should see PSMoveFreepieBridge. Run that, and it's going to ask you how many controllers you want to track. Just say 1, and then it's going to ask you which controller number. It's either 0, 1, or 2. My example said 3, but yours will probably be number 2. That was just because when I did the controller calibration as the demo, I disconnected it and reconnected it, and it didn't really get rid of number 2 for me. So, but that did end up fixing itself later on down the road anyways, and switched to number 2. So either way, once you've selected the controller that you want for head tracking, you should see the orb light up right away. Most likely it's going to be yellow. Now we're going to need to run the FreePie software. So double click on the FreePie shortcut that you put into that folder, and once the software opens up, you're going to want to go to File and then Open. Windows should open up for you, and just open up the FreePie example script. Don't worry about the mouse script right now, as it's not needed. Once that script comes up, just go to Script and then Run Script. This is going to enable all of the head tracking and make sure that's working properly. This next part's not completely necessary, but I find it makes things much easier, and makes it a lot cleaner to start up the whole VR setup later on down the road as well. But you're going to want to install Autohotkey. This is a scripting program to run everything, because you have to run a lot of programs to just get this up and running. And this just happens with one. This just makes it work with a double click. So get that software installed. Just double click on the file and then run through the installer again. Just all defaults is fine. Once it's running, once it's done, there'll be a tutorial that'll pop up. You can close that. But then you're going to want to right-click on your desktop and then go to New. And you should now see Autohotkey Script. You want to open up a script, and then you want to right-click on that and go Edit Script. In here, you can just pretty much copy exactly what I have, but also make sure that you do change the file paths for all of the file paths you see in there. Make sure you put them to wherever yours are installed. That's kind of the important part. Here's my example right now. And just take all of this, put it into yours. The stops in there, the sleeps are just to make sure that nothing has any kind of errors. But yeah, all of the different paths you're going to have to put as your own. And the rest of it should be left the same pretty much. And this way it'll just start everything right up to Riftcat and keep it all automated, which is nice. And once that's done, you can just save and close. And then, of course, once you're done with that script, you can right-click on it and then go Compile Script. And then that'll just give you your executable file. And it's just an exe you can double-click. One thing to note, you do have to right-click on it. And once you right-click on it, go to Properties. And in Properties, you're going to go to the Compatibility tab and check off running it as administrator. That's because PSMoveService wants to be run as admin. Hit Apply, OK, and then you are all set to go. I'll actually give you a quick demo here of how it works. So I'll just get everything closed down, and then just kind of show you how it works right from the start, how the script works. So there's all the windows closed off. And then we just double click on the icon you created. And there, now we get Riftcat launching, which is the next step anyways. And now for the final part here. This is your tracker pose calibration. This makes sure that all of your cameras are the tracking on them's done right, and it kind of helps the cameras lay out everywhere they need to be. But what you need to do is open up, once Riftcat's open and your phone is connected, what you're going to need to do is, or what I suggest to do, is to lower your frame rate and everything down. Unless you've already used it and set it up in the past, then that's fine. Leave it at whatever settings, but I just put it lower to make sure everything is working right. But the important thing is you need to make sure you have tracking options set to phone orientation and free track position. This is going to enable your head tracking. So your phone's still going to do the movement, like rotating, but moving side to side, up and down is going to be done by free track, which the FreePieBridge software is taking care of. Now that the phone's connected, you can actually just minimize Riftcat, but make sure you leave it running so it stays connected to your phone. And then you're going to open up your PSMoveService folder and then go to the PSMove config tool, keeping in mind that your PSMoveService is, of course, running. Once you open that, you're going to see Steam VR is going to open up on its own and show you the 3 controllers you have connected and the cameras that are connected. I'm just going to enable a mirror here so you can see what is seen through my headset. But then you're also going to first want to run the room setup. So go to run that, and then click on standing only. I haven't got room scale working quite yet. I might make another video down the road, but for now we're just going to do standing room. And then once you see that your headset is ready, click on next, and then click on Calibrate Center. This is also providing too that your headset is still on the calibration mat in that same spot. You're going to click on calibrate floor, and then put in the distance that the mat is off of the floor in inches or centimeters, and then you're going to click on next after that, and then click on done once you're finished. Once that's finished, you're going to see your PSMove config tool again. In here, you're going to want to click on tracker settings, and then once you click on that, you want to click on compute tracker poses. Zoom out a little bit by scrolling forward on the scroll wheel, and make sure you can see your headset in the middle of that box. That box you just created with the with the Steam VR room setup. Once you see that there, click on looks good, and then you should see your controller sitting on the tub there. Sorry, my room lighting is quite low just because I got controlled lighting down there. And then once you see all three of your controllers, then you click on looks good. Sorry, before you do that though, you are going to want to make sure that your magenta one is laying down and not standing up. Then you're going to want to click on use calibration mat, and you're going to see the magenta one light up with a little target on it, and you can see it here moving around. That's me moving it. Then you want to position it in tracker position 1, standing straight up, and then position 2, and then position 3. Your VR headset's out of the way right now, and once you've done number 3, you're going to want to position it perfectly on the HMD line. This is going to make sure that it kind of sets sets exactly where your center is for your head movement. Once that's done, put it on position 4, and then position 5. And then also you want to make sure that that controller, the yellow one, is facing perfectly square as well when you do this. And then once you move the position 5 away, it's going to automatically calibrate the headset. And then from here, you should see that the motion controller is moving around. You may or may not, I'm not sure, I forget now. The headset may or may not move. If it doesn't, I would just restart the computer and do that room setup and this tracker pose calibration again. Some people say you need to do it over and over and over again. I've done it a few times, and 2 or 3 times top should do it, as long as you're careful on making sure that your orientation is right and everything's pretty square. So we're just going to give this a little bit of a test out here. We're just going to look at it to make sure that I can see the controllers, nothing's way out of whack. Things look like they're somewhat decent. You can see one of my controllers is a little bit out of whack when I move them both forward together, but really it's not bad, and another controller calibration could fix that to make sure it follows that green line like we did earlier. And head tracking left and right, it's moving okay, just looking around, seems okay. Again, if this didn't work out perfectly after the first run through, just restart your computer, and then that's why you made the Autohotkey Script, so you can just run that, and it'll bring you right back up to Riftcat, where you can just minimize and then open up the calibration, or sorry, the config again. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully everything worked out well. We're going to give it a shot here in Steam VR, and we're going to see how things look. So I'm just going to show a little bit of a demo here, and show me doing just a little bit of the lab. To bring up the menu, you're going to want to hit the PS button on the controller, and then of course the trigger is to select with the laser pointer there. But yeah, just give it a go. Hopefully you have fun with this, and hopefully it works out well. If you have any questions at all, or if you run into any kind of issues, feel free to leave a message in the comments, and I'll do what I can to help. I didn't write any of this software. I really appreciate who did. They did a fantastic job, and bringing VR to a lot of people that otherwise can't quite afford it. So thank you, and enjoy.